If you're interested in operating a short-term rental on Airbnb, then listen up, because today I'm going to share with you my thoughts on what makes a good Airbnb property. What's up, guys? I'm so glad you're back. And you might notice that today, for the first time ever, I'm using a ring light. Yes, I'm trying to be a little bit more professional. So if you could just take a second and subscribe, that would also really help me out. Go ahead, subscribe button's down here somewhere. Sweet. So today's video is designed to help you figure out which rental units would be ideal for converting into short-term rentals. And I want to start off by making sure we're on the same page. So first of all, we don't deal with vacation rentals in resort towns. Those are an entirely different animal. They may be fantastic, they may be very complicated and tricky and risky. I just don't know. Secondly, is the same caveat I always give with short-term rental investing, and that is, if you're going to invest in a rental property, make sure it makes sense and works as a traditional rental. You need to have that backup plan in case, for whatever reason, short-term renting does not work out. So with that in mind, we're going to be looking at what good traditional rentals might actually be even better as short-term rentals. So here we go, without further delay. 6 questions that I would think about as I consider whether to convert a traditional rental into a short-term rental. Is the property type suitable for short-term renting? Now, there's 2 things to consider with this question. First of all is the number of bedrooms. We have found that 2 bedrooms is the sweet spot for us. At our relatively low price points, our 2-bedroom units are very attractive to travelers who would otherwise have to shell out more money for 2 hotel rooms. But we still get a lot of bookings from guests who only need 1 bedroom because the price is still very affordable and they get extra space, a kitchen, and laundry facilities. 3 bedrooms starts to get a little bit too big. Price points are a little too high for those solo travelers and single bedroom groups. And so you're gonna start to see higher vacancy and the demand just isn't gonna be as strong. And remember, we're talking about a typical rental market, not some resort town with large groups of tourists. With 3 bedrooms or more, you might want to rent these rooms out individually, but that has a whole nother set of issues and hassles and is a different topic for another day. So overall, from my experience, 2 bedrooms is ideal, 1 bedroom still works well, and 3 bedrooms, it's okay. With 3 bedrooms, it may just be better to rent out long term. So the other thing to think about is property type. That is the property a single-family detached home, a small multifamily, a townhome, or a condo? The small multifamily, usually considered 2, 3, or 4 units, is going to be ideal in my opinion if you're going to be making all the units short-term rentals. You benefit a little bit from economy of scale when it comes to internet service and cleaning services. Then the detached home would be the next best bet because it just gives you a little bit more space from your neighbors. For townhomes and condos, the proximity to neighbors just increases the chances that either the neighbors or the guests are bothered by other people. The other issue with townhomes and condos is that they're almost always going to be part of a community association. And that means you'll either be very severely restricted and under intense scrutiny from the association, or it just won't be allowed at all. The same can apply for single family and multifamilies, so make sure if those are part of community associations that you pay attention to what the rules are. So my second question to consider is whether there is demand for tourism in the area. And this is really straightforward. I mean, is there a lot of tourist activity in your city? And would your neighborhood be a good landing spot for those tourists? So is it close to popular attractions? Is it easy to get around by car, by public transit, or by taxi and ride-sharing services? Is it a comfortable location for people who don't really know the area? Or could it be confusing and even overwhelming for a first-time visitor? And most importantly in my mind is whether it will be perceived as safe and beautiful to a temporary visitor. Obviously, a pretty neighborhood leaves a positive impression, but also unlike a full-time resident, I think the perception for an outsider that an area is safe is extremely important. Next, I would ask, is there demand for business travel in the area? And when I say that, I really mean any type of traveler who's captive, somebody who's not choosing to visit your city, but needs to be there for some reason. So are there a lot of large corporations in your area with lots of employees, clients, consultants traveling through? Are you close to conventions and conference venues? Or maybe near a university with parents and alumni visiting scholars? Are there any major medical centers close by that attract patients from out of town, as well as their visitors and guests? Now, judging this category can be very tricky, and I've actually been quite surprised that this makes up the majority of our Airbnb guests. So the fourth question I would think about is, are there hotels close by? And are they doing well? Now, having a lot of hotel rooms doesn't necessarily mean anything. It could indicate a very healthy demand. What matters is whether the hotels are often sold out and how their pricing would compare to yours. And as I mentioned before, our 2 bedrooms there are priced at or slightly below even some of the single hotel rooms. So we see a lot of demand. A few years ago, we also owned an Airbnb listing in Arlington, Virginia that was surrounded by hotels. But fortunately for us, those hotel prices during the work week were through the roof. So we were able to price competitively and have close to 100% occupancy. So overall, I'd say having a lot of hotel rooms nearby is a good thing because it gives you more points of comparison, and what matters really is what those price points are compared to your price points. So question number 5 is whether there are a lot of short-term rental listings in your area. Now, the difference between this question and the one about hotels is that with the short-term rentals, I do think that having too many listings in the area could be a deterrent. Other short-term rental listings are going to be a lot more comparable to the product that you're offering, so it's a bit harder to stand out versus hotels. Short-term listings are also much more elastic. If there is great demand, then it's much easier for property owners and investors to increase the supply of short-term rentals, and it could easily become oversaturated. Ultimately, it still comes down to price. So if you believe that you can offer more for less, then you should still be fine. But remember that the supply can increase at any time and really start to push those price points lower. And if that's where you are on the market, you can get squeezed really tight. And the last question to think about is, how does your city and your community feel about Airbnb? What do your neighbors think? Will adding an Airbnb property to the neighborhood really detract from the quality and the character? If your neighbors are gonna hate it and hate you for it, then that probably makes the entire thing not worthwhile. You could fight them, and you might be right, but it's still gonna hurt your bottom line, so why do it? There are many reasons why widespread and rampant growth of unregulated short-term rentals has really had a tangible negative effect on cities and neighborhoods all over the world. And the legislative reactions to this have run the gamut, from total crackdown to a lot more partnership and working with the short-term rental platforms to try to find a common ground. In 2019, there were some scary proposals from the city council to really restrict the operation of short-term rentals, and that would have hurt us drastically. So we know that this probably will not last forever, and we are prepared to adapt when necessary. So those are the 6 basic questions that I would work through if I was considering converting a traditional rental into a short-term rental. And if you get through all of that and still feel pretty good about your prospects, but you just want to do a little bit more in-depth analysis, there are 3 companies that can help you out with that. There's AirDNA, All the Rooms, and MatchVisor. And I'm not recommending a particular one, but they all generally do a very good job of analyzing the data that's available for many different markets and particular neighborhoods. So if you enjoyed that video, please take a second to like and comment down below, and also consider subscribing and smashing that notification bell so that you'll see me next time.